And welcome and good morning. Well, good morning if you're watching us live. It may or may not be a good morning if you're watching it later on the stream. But, and I'm hearing myself a second later, but I'll take care. There we go. And we're ready to rock and roll. Waiting for Brandon Graham. He's out of town. Can you believe he left right after or shortly after the parade? I won't say what part of the country he's in unless he wants to say it, but he's getting himself ready. And we'll have Brandon on very shortly, talk a few minutes, and then we'll have him on again because he is running around. Obviously a busy couple of days for Brandon Graham, but we'll talk to him. Let's first, and I'm going to address and try to address more of your comments during the show as we do this. The parade was phenomenal. Now, everybody's going to make predictions on the number. Does it really matter how many people were at the parade? When you saw the numbers of people, whether it's a million, whether it's 1.1 or 1.5, it doesn't make any difference. The Super Bowl parade, they estimated in the 2017 championship team, they estimated at 2.1 million. Who knows whether there were that many people there. But the people have fun. Unfortunately, sometimes some people have a little too much to drink, but they want to party, and if they're going to party hard. But it's exciting for the players who have never seen that amount and those masses of people. And then the players join in and they carry around the Super Bowl trophy. I don't know if there was more than one trophy, but you can have more than one trophy for the parade. And then you have one trophy which is displayed in the Eagles offices. But it was a fascinating and interesting moments for the players. And you know what's interesting is if you're watching it on TV, and I've seen clips on social media, players are excited and they really don't care about their language. So when TV stations, put it on live, what do they expect? So the expectations are you're going to have something here and there. I guess I heard I saw the clips on social media. There must have been 6 apologies by the TV station when guys used language that apparently, it's not appropriate for television, but in that world, I remember when the Phillies had their celebration and Chase Utley went off, and I think some stations got fined, some stations got warned, but you gotta, the FCC or whatever federal agency handles that, let them have their moment, let them have their fun. And that's just what it is. It's players just letting out all their emotions. And when we talk to each other, now, even though on this platform with podcasts and through social media, you can curse, but I'm so used to the years of, you just in case there's kids there, I can let it go. But they're just having their moment, and it's excitement, and everything is great. So, is Brandon's?
I'm seeing him there. Let's hope.
Okay.
You want to add him to the stage?
Yeah, if he's ready, we'll see if Brandon, are you good? I guess he's not.
Yeah.
There.
Yes.
Are you there, brother?
Yeah.
All right. We'll wait. There you go. Hey, how are you this morning?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Just on my way to baby girl gymnastics
Can you
meet.
hear me? I see
Yeah.
him.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
There you go.
You
I
hear
see
me?
you talking, but I don't hear you.
Uh-oh. You can't hear me? Uh-oh.
Are you there, brother?
There we go. I'm here.
There you go. All right. So, what's it been like for the last 24 hours for you?
Man, it's been crazy. It's been fun. Obviously, I lost my voice a little bit. Now I'm in Texas for baby girl gymnastics meet. Came here last night, right after the parade.
You know what? It's you've been now through two parades. All right.
Hmm.
Is there a difference, or is there a moment in each one of those parades?
Well, you know what? What's different is now we know what to look forward to. The first time it was kind of like I didn't pace myself, so the first hour I was man I did it too hard, and by the time we got to the speeches, I was tired.
Well, you weren't tired enough to just to get up there and speak, so you weren't tired enough for that. Uh,
Yeah.
but but it's just the players did after it was all over. Did the players who hadn't been in a parade before say something to you and say, "Oh my God," where you knew you knew what was going to happen?
Nah, I told them before, pace themselves. Gave them all they stuff. Say what's up. Hey, yep. I told them to pace themselves, and there they go. Yeah, they both over here.
That's all right. That's
And then
cool.
y'all pace themselves, and then make sure you enjoy it. And I think them boys enjoyed it. Got a couple personal messages from a couple guys. You know, when we was out there, just on like how much we helped each other. You know what I'm saying? And this year, and a lot of people was going through some stuff that we talked about and made sure that they got through the year. And you know how it is. It's all about your mindset and trying to stay focused because there's so many different distractions from off the field, from family to on the field, from coaches not playing you or you think you're supposed to, have a different role than what you have. But like I told the guys, it's like, man, enjoy the role that you do have because some people on the couch and they wish they could just be in your role. So when you think about it, when they start to think about it like that, they happy that they saw it through, and now I mean we Super Bowl champions.
You know what? You know this team's not going to be the same next year, regardless of
Yes.
whether you're there or the other. There's usually after a Super Bowl win, teams lose about 15 players from that roster. Did you
Yep.
talk about that before the game, after the game, or after the parade? That has to come up at some point. Hey guys, we're not all going to be here next year. Do you
Well,
talk
yeah.
to them about with your teammates?
Well, I told him that. As the season went, that's why I said we need to make sure we take maximize everything on this situation, where we don't have no regrets because we got an opportunity of a lifetime to write ourselves in history, and I think we did that, especially in that last game, man. Because that defensive play, man, I was like, man, the only thing that sucked was it's over with now because we finally, felt like we was gelling. You know what I'm saying, all the way through, and it showed up big in that last game.
You know what? I know Jalen won the MVP, and he had a great game, but the defense is the most valuable part, I think, of this team. Defense. Did you think this defense could be this good this year?
I thought they really could because Vic, the way he came this year, the way he kept everybody focused, and of course you might have not liked it in the beginning because we always trying to learn each other, stuff like that. But I think that eventually over time, Vic ended up softening up a little bit, but still, held everybody accountable. But everybody bought into what he was selling. So, and he had a good supporting cast with coaches. So that was a really good, like
All
mixture
right,
of everything.
all right. One more question because I know you're on the run, and we'll do another one maybe in another week when you kind of
Yeah, I
settle
got
down a little bit. All right.
you.
I'm not going to ask you whether you're going to come back, but I
Mhm.
am going to ask you what goes into your decision on whether you're coming back.
Well, you know what? We're gonna outweigh everything in the situation. Talk with Howie a little bit, see what he thinking, because all that matter. You know what I'm saying? And then we'll figure it all out as we go. Right now, I was just like what I was saying, enjoying the moment, but then worry about the other stuff later. So that's kind of like my motto right now.
That's a tough decision for you because you are, what, you're going to be 37, I guess, right? You're going to be
Yeah,
37
yeah,
years old. That's a really
yeah.
tough decision. So,
Hmm.
does that come into it too? Hey, listen, I'm 37 years old. I had, what, 15 great years with this football team. Does that come into it too?
Oh yeah, and then I played I played at the highest level. I don't have nothing else to prove. But of course, I'm always a competitor. I'm always into it. We feel like a dynasty is approaching right now. So, all that is happening, and all that I'm taking into account. So I'm gonna see how everything goes, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, Brandon, I know you're on the run and there's a lot going on. Hopefully, I'll check with you during the week and maybe next week we can do this and then really get in depth. And maybe you'll be closer to thinking about all the things because you'll have time to think about what you're going to do coming up in
Yep.
the future. Thanks, brother. Have a good time in Texas. Enjoy the
Yep.
gym. Are your kids in the gymnastics or do you know somebody in the gymnastics?
No, baby girl. This way.
Uh,
This way. Baby girl.
okay.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right.
So
Well,
yeah, I got
good
you.
luck. Good luck. Safe trip and safe time back and have a good time. Thanks,
Yeah, I
brother.
appreciate you. Appreciate you.
No, I appreciate. Hey, listen, everybody in Philadelphia appreciates you, and I got to mention one thing because you're on the board of directors for the Ed Snyder Youth Foundation.
Hmm.
Uh, the question that's really important: you involve yourself so much in the community. How did you get involved in the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey and Education Program?
Well, my guy, his name's John Carpenter. He kept telling me like, man, you would be a great fit to be on the board. He knew a couple people. We went out. We ate at what you call it? What you call it? Some cafe. Why can't I think of the? It's some. It was out there in the main line. We went out to eat. We ate Nudies Cafe, and they met me, and they got a good vibe from me, and it was kind of a no brainer in their mind, and so we end up doing it. And man, it's been such a great addition because all the events that they have, being there, talking with the kids, even at the parade, one of the guys was like, man, I'm a Snyder kid. Hey, 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 so I get a lot of that. So it's been such a good feeling on top of good people, and I'm happy that I'm able to help and make a change in the community and help out. So yeah, that's how everything
It's
came about.
fulfilling. It's very fulfilling, isn't it, when you see
It
something
is.
like that happen?
It
Okay.
is. It
All right.
is.
We'll talk about it more when we have you on again. Thanks. Good luck today, and I'm sure the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Program and Education Program really appreciate what you do for them too. Thanks, brother. Have a
Yes.
good time today.
Appreciate you.
All right,
Thank you.
take care. All right, Brandon Graham, and we'll have more. There's so many different things to talk about with him and the team and the players, but he's on the run, and I give him, a lot of guys that say, "Hey, you know what? Let's do it another time." And I just wanted to have people hear his emotion, the fact that he he's really involved in the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Program. He's on the he's on the board of directors. What does Brandon Graham know about hockey? But it's about hockey, but it's about what Brandon Graham and what more players should and don't do involving themselves more in the community. And I've seen it. Certain players really get deeply involved, and they don't have to be asked by the team to get involved in those programs. They do it themselves without urging of the team. I'm sure the team knew about it, but he gets really involved with a lot of things. I see some of the comments. Brandon Graham, would he come back with another team? Absolutely not. If Brandon Graham, I can't, there's just no way. If Brandon Graham comes back, if he comes back, and sometimes you got to be careful when you do that because sometimes your body, and I don't know if his injury was a signal to him from his body, so to speak, but sometimes players have to worry or they don't worry about it. You have to think about it, and that's one of the things he's got to think about. I remember when Charles Barkley was going to play his last year. This was many years ago with the Houston Rockets, and I think he pretty much said it was going to be his last year. He had an injury that season, and he knew it was over. Now, he almost didn't come back to the Phoenix Suns, let alone the Houston Rockets. So that's what a player has to think about. He's, especially in football, in your age dictates, obviously, Father Time never loses. Your age kind of dictates that. Everybody wants Brandon Graham to come back because he's part of everybody and he's so visible, he's so personable, he's always nice to everybody. He'll stay for an hour at an event beyond when he's supposed to stay just because people want to take pictures with him. I don't know that everybody's like that. I see a question, who's going to be the Eagles' next offensive coordinator? They'll take time. I hope it's Kevin Petullo, who's been on the staff and with Nick Sirianni. Been with Nick Sirianni, I think, for 8 years. And he's been on the staff since Nick Sirianni came here. But that's the person I think that should get the job. He knows the offense. He's been a big part of the offense. So those are the kind of things you have to think about. BG is Eagles football. I see a comment. Another person says, I think BG should go out a champion. You always think about that because it's so hard to win a Super Bowl. To assume that this team is going to be a dynasty, that's pretty easy to say, but not very easy to do. Teams in the conference will be better. I don't think Kansas City was the best team. They were a good team, but I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs were the best team in the AFC. I think the Buffalo Bills were. I think the Buffalo Bills were better. They would have given the Eagles a better game. Now, I still think the Eagles would have likely won the game, but it wouldn't have been over at halftime as this game was. The game was over at halftime. It's just, you got to understand that moments are almost dictated by the situations before the situation actually happens. They were just a better personnel-wise football team than Kansas City. So I see a question here. People want me to take calls, and I'd like to do that too. In the future, with the technology, I think we will be able to take calls. So, people want me to look at the camera. Hey, hi. Okay, I'm looking at the camera, but I'm trying to look at your comments as well. Somebody wants to salute 55. The King is back. Great. Philly loves Brandon, and we all understand that. So, all those things come into play, but that's a really tough decision for Brandon Graham. This is a really good football team. Now, the Eagles always find ways to re-sign players that are free agents. Zach Bond has to be back. There's no question. I think that's the top priority. Milt Williams, you'd like to see him back. Becton, you'd like to see him back. You can't have everybody. I remember after the last Super Bowl, they lost a couple of key players. They lost offensive linemen, if I remember correctly. But then you got to make sure, and they have depth in those areas, you make sure that you're in position to be able to replace those players. And the Eagles and Howie Roseman certainly do think about that. So it's going to be an interesting season. Regina, thanks. We love BG too. So that's a comment here. It's easy to embrace players when they win a championship. But one of the things, and we'll have Brandon on again, running around and he's busy. He's got a gymnastics event with his kids. It's in Texas. But it's easy to embrace players when they win. But do people still embrace, and they've embraced Brandon Graham even when they lost. But it's just not the same. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting season. I mean, I can remember early in the season. There's so many things that happened with this team. I can remember early in the season, people were booing the team in the first quarter, after the first quarter, at halftime, and I get all that stuff. I understand that fans can get emotional, and then the people, the idiots that wanted to fire Nick Sirianni after a few games, and he was still pretty much one of the top 3 winningest coaches in football at the time. They start off 2-2. The end of the season, hey, they weren't good enough last season. They just weren't good enough, and they knew that when they got into the last portion of the season against tougher teams. But they were good enough this year. And the head coach is the one that's really responsible for keeping them together. And that's so important in the situation that they have. You got to keep them together. And that's the one thing that Nick Sirianni never lost sight of. And the people, can you imagine, just think about this. Can you imagine if the Eagles had fired Nick Sirianni like some of the morons out there wanted him fired, whether it was people on the air, whether it was the fans, whether it was the newspapers, and then there's so many things that they had to complain, little things they complained about. Nick Sirianni wins the game and brings his kids up in the post-game news conference. Now, it was a tough game, and they struggled early in the season, but Nick Sirianni brings his kids up, and then somebody rips him. I guess a few people ripped him, and somebody wrote about it in the newspaper, if anybody still reads the newspapers. But somebody ripped him in the newspaper for bringing his kids up. Really? It's just, is that what you're worried about? Everybody could ask the questions. The kids aren't old enough to know whether the questions are critical or not critical. They're just up there to be with their dad. And then people criticize them. But it's amazing how many people wanted to fire Nick Sirianni. And think about this, and then they wanted to bring in Bill Belichick. Oh, that would have been great. They would have really embraced that guy. Please, spare me. That's not the way it works. I don't care who they could have brought in. It would have been a complete, first of all, they shouldn't have brought in anybody. And luckily, Jeffrey Lurie, I think, really, in those situations, would have the major say in that decision. Certainly, he'd talk to Howie Roseman, but the major say in that situation would be Jeffrey Lurie. And patience is a virtue, and Jeffrey understood that Nick Sirianni was a good coach. Now, if they had a really bad season, and bringing another coach in wouldn't have changed anything at the beginning of the season. So he had the patience to stick with this coach, and that is really, really, really important. Some of the things that people said about Nick Sirianni, he was too emotional. He's, yelling at the fans. Hey, listen, he had fun with that fan, and that fan acknowledged that when he was yelling at him. I mean, you engage with them more than because he's emotional. After the touchdown by Devontae Smith, or actually during the touchdown, he's running down the field. You don't see many coaches doing that. So what? So what? What's wrong with emotion? I think Andy Reid's the best coach in football, and he doesn't have any emotion on the sidelines. But to his players in the locker room, that's where the players know who you are. And I don't care. Well, actually, I do care if a coach has emotion. I like the emotion that Nick Sirianni has on the sidelines. And I think, matter of fact, I know in listening to the players and talking to the players, they really like the emotion that he has. All right, I should say, and because we were worried about getting Brandon Graham, there's important people that are that are watching and listening, that will watch and listen, but I always want to mention our sponsors because they're important. And right now, our initial sponsor, ABC Tickets, great people. I've known them for 30 years. You want tickets anywhere in the world, anywhere. ABC Tickets will be able to get them for you. 800-355-5555. You see the number. You're not going to remember that I said it, but you're going to be able to go back and look at it and see that number and talk to them. So if you need tickets anywhere, some people have trouble getting tickets outside of the city or anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, I'm telling you, anywhere in the world, if you want to go someplace, ABC Tickets can take care of it. So I wanted to acknowledge, it's important to acknowledge the people that support this and allow us to have this podcast and this program. And I'm sure they were busy this season with the Eagles tickets. But the reality is, Eagles are a good football team. People have to be careful about, you can say this is a dynasty. Dynasties aren't that common. Jalen Hurts had a really, really good game, terrific game in the Super Bowl. But he doesn't have to throw the ball that much. Even when Saquon Barkley doesn't gain a lot of yards, which he didn't in the Super Bowl, what did he have, 51 yards? It didn't matter because the defense defends against that, and it makes what he does easier. And people get all caught up in his rushing yards, and that's great. But that's because he didn't throw the ball. Usually, in most cases, from going back and looking back at that Super Bowl, they weren't called runs. They were escape runs, which is great that he has that ability to be able to do that. I don't care that he had the most rushing yards of any quarterback in a Super Bowl. That doesn't matter. Did he navigate the game the way he was supposed to do it? And he did, and Saquon Barkley helps that. But when you talk about dynasty, and players get caught up in that, and Brandon briefly said that at the beginning of the show. And again, I'm going to try to have Brandon on next Saturday, depending if his schedule gets a little better. And there's so many more things to talk to him about. Maybe he may be closer. Well, he'll be closer to a decision. I don't know if he'll really have thought about it that much. So you just got to remember, and people have to remember this, players can't stay around forever. There was a lot of great players in this city. It's just, I mean, you just got to think that you can't stay around and players can't stay around. And the fans have to understand that. You really have to understand that. Somebody has a question here. Is this the best Eagles team you've ever seen top to bottom? Personnel-wise, they are. But I'm telling you, that 2017 team was really, really good. Carson Wentz, he fell off the face of the earth after that season. But for those 13 games that he played, and I believe his last play was that touchdown pass to Alshon Jeffrey. Without Carson Wentz, they wouldn't have won. So from that standpoint, Carson Wentz, for those 13 games, were probably as good as any quarterback in a stretch. Remember, Jalen Hurts had some games which people questioned. Even his own teammate. You could say he questioned the coaching staff and the play calls, that being A.J. Brown. But he questioned a lot of things, especially when he knew he was open at different times. That might have been when A.J. Brown was critical and Brandon Graham was critical on his show on Monday night. That might have been the most, and I'm thinking back, the most important moment or moments or situation in the season. Because you remember the next game was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they destroyed. They were so together. They really galvanized together after that situation. And I think that helped the players galvanize. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts get along personally, and that's never been an issue. But on the field, and A.J. Brown made a point of it. After the Pittsburgh game, I remember standing there in the locker room on that Wednesday, and he says, I wanted to make it clear. I put that out there for a reason. And the fact that he put that out there really, really helped. And that was after the Pittsburgh game. So the reality was he just wanted to let people know he needed, for whatever reasons, he needed the passing game better. And they were better. They absolutely were better. So those are the kind of things that you really got to, you look back at the season, you say, where was it? You could say after the bye week, they turned it around. But they still had struggles with some of the games. If it wasn't for the defense, I'm not so sure. If it wasn't for the defense, I'm not so sure they would have, matter of fact, I know they wouldn't have been in the Super Bowl if it wasn't for this defense. The defense for the season was the MVP. They were so good. And the two young players, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, really, really helped. N'Kobe Dean, while he was healthy. Zach Vaughn was unbelievable. Josh Sweat had a great year. That's another player they have to make a decision on after the season. So those are the kind of things that you really got to understand what the dynamics are of a football team. I see a question here from Billy Bob. I didn't get the mystery of Brandon Graham retirement. He already said before the season, before his injury, he's retiring. He played the Super Bowl, so he should retire on top. Well, I get all that. But sometimes players, when you say it's over, if you go away for a year, you're not coming back. And I remember that there was talk for, I guess, the last couple of years that Jason Kelce was going to retire. And I think he made the right decision, although he may look back and say, well, if he stayed another year, Cam Jurgens did a hell of a job at center. If I come back another year, yeah, but that's not, once you start to question your decision, then I don't know if that's the best thing. And, you know, he would always say, and he knew the Mondays after games, he could barely get out of bed, he could barely walk. He knew what he was doing is right. And when you make that decision, but it's hard for players to let it go. If Brandon Graham feels he still has it left in the tank, but a full season, and next year will be 17 games. I think the year after, I see a question, there was that the season could be 18 games. 17 games is long enough, but the NFL doesn't care whether it's long enough. They care about how much money they make. And 18 games, you would eliminate a preseason game, so you still have the same amount of games, but in the preseason, the players don't play. So if you have 18 games, it's a long season, but again, it's all about the teams and the league making more money. So it is what it is. But this team is really good. Are they a dynasty? That is the question. And when Brandon Graham comes back on, and tentatively I'll get him back on next Saturday when he can speak some more. But he had so many things going on with his kids and the gymnastics competitions in Texas that he had an early, even though it's earlier out there, you could see he had an early day and he was on the move. But we'll have him. Is it a dynasty? That's a hard thing. That you're not a dynasty until you do it. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl 2 times in the last 3 years, but it's so hard to get back. And they were pretty lucky with the amount of injuries that they didn't have. So you got to look at it that way. But there'll be more talk about that, and we'll talk more about it. And if anybody has any more questions, we'll do that too. There's other things going on in town, and it's just there's things that we got to talk about. There's things that are coming up. Phillies have started spring training. The Sixers are a disaster. The All-Star break for the NBA is a joke. I'm going to get to that. We're going to take a little break and be back and talk about those things. And if you have questions, I see somebody who is a Joe. The process sucks. The process was never a process. It was a disgrace. And anybody that believed in it had no clue that all those years, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's almost like they're trying to start it again. and I'll get in it. I'll get into it. But let's take a short break, and we'll be back. And again, thanks to ABC Tickets for being a welcome and big part of the show. All right, we'll be right back. All right, we're back. You know what? We had a request. I mean, sometimes the questions or the requests are crazy. Leiden 1775 is the handle. That person, whether it be a he or a she, wanted fish and swimming on the background, my background. Like,
Producer's
okay,
getting ready.
okay. Well, the producer is getting it ready. So we'll test drive that and see if you like that. Well, why don't I just get into a pool next time? Why don't I just get into a pool and just throw a bunch of guppies in there and fish in there? As long as you don't put alligators and crocodiles in there, I'm good. Or in the world we live in, you can't have big fish. But we'll do it. It's just, yeah. I see another comment that Sweat is gone because they get a compensatory third-round pick. You know, that's contingent on a team signing him. But do you want to lose somebody on the defensive line? See, okay, you okay now? Let me see. We got the soccer ball in there. We got the fish. We got a cat. We got everybody in there. So they're all swimming around. They're all swimming around. You wanted that background. That's all you have to do is request something, and you've got it. All right. So there's a lot of. Let me see if I can get some more responses to. All right. Let me talk about the Phillies first, and then we'll get some of your responses. Some of the things that you want or don't want. Or you like, or you don't like, or your questions. They got to keep Zach Baun, I agree, and they got to keep Becton, I totally agree. And those are the kind of things they really have to keep. You know, I see somebody, is Paul George the biggest bust? We'll get to it. We'll get to it, but there's so many things that are wrong with that team. Did somebody put up, do the Eagles try to trade Saquon Barkley? Do the Eagles try to trade Saquon? What, are you kidding me? You know how outraged this town would be if the Eagles tried to trade Saquon? Come on now. Who would even come up with a question like that? I think you have to be concerned of his workload. Now, it's different now than it used to be. I remember when they signed DeMarco Murray after he was abused work-wise. He was abused work-wise the year before, and he was terrible when he got to the Eagles. It's hard to have back-to-back years like that. And the offensive line, there's another. Between the defense, the offensive line, we talked about that with Eric Allen last time. I think the defense was the overall MVP. I think the offensive line, Saquon Barkley's terrific, helped him to get to the second level, and the offensive line helped protect Jalen Hurts, especially in the Super Bowl. Somebody, thank God there's not going to be an arena in Center City. I've talked about that for so long. Sixers are mad at me because I thought it was a disgrace. The city was a disgrace to even support it, but they all got contributions and donations, call it whatever you will, to try to do it. And I thank the people for welcoming me back. That's nice of you people. And I purposely am doing Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock is when I was on the radio, because there's nothing on the radio at 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings that you, the sports fans, really want to listen to, because whatever it is, and I don't pay attention to whatever it is, people have told me it's just not good enough. All right, let's address the Phillies here. They do need help. Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson spoke this week, and we talked about it briefly when we were on Wednesday night. It's just, Dave Dombrowski said he thinks the bullpen is packed. It's pitcher by committee. Who's the closer? Really, who's the closer? Now, they're still looking, and I know they're still looking. I think there's a relief pitcher in Toronto that the Blue Jays are willing to trade, and they're looking at that. They need help in the bullpen. Their starting pitching is good. So the two areas that I think don't help them to be as good as the Mets, who did a lot in the offseason, as good as the Atlanta Braves, who will be back, and right now they'll have less injuries to start the season. So the Phillies are the third best team in the division. And there's going to be other teams in the National League. Well, we know the Dodgers. It's out of control, all the things they did. But that's the reality. They don't care about spending the money. They don't care about paying extra money with the tax and whatever they have to do. But the Phillies are not good enough right now, as we speak, to win a World Series. So the bullpen's not good enough. Starting pitching is good enough, assuming that nobody gets hurt. I don't think Suarez is really the third starter. Talent-wise, he is, but he always gets hurt. I see a comment here from BR. This is the best time slot. It's tradition. Yes, it is. It's appointment podcast now, not appointment radio. It's appointment podcast, and we will help you and do that. It's just, can Painter be our closer? No. Painter will not be your closer, especially, I see that comment. Andrew Painter will not be the closer because it would require too much work. He would be up and down multiple days during that 5 days when he would be a starter, and he's not physically set up for that. I don't even know when he'll pitch this season, but he's not going to pitch at the beginning of the season. No, he will not be the closer. Could he be a good closer? Yeah, but then you only have him once, every 5 days. So no, he's not going to be the closer. All right, their lineup. Their lineup isn't good enough. Their lineup is good, but not good enough. I love when Rob Thompson said the other day that the team's got to change their approach. Well, that's great. How do you change your approach when the guys that are there aren't change your approach type guys? Do you think, I don't want Alec Boehm, and it's a good thing they didn't trade him. He makes better contact than any player on that team. I think he's got to be the four hitter, but who knows what Rob Thompson's going to do. I think he realizes He won't take my lineup, which was Stott, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber. He wants Schwarber to hit no lower than 4. It doesn't. He's going to have men on base. He strikes out 200 times. I think Schwarber's a terrific guy, but he strikes out too much. There's too many strikeouts in that lineup, and players worrying about exit velocity or exit velocity and all that kind of launch angle and all that nonsense. Just hit the baseball and put it in play. And I don't think they have a lineup for that. Not right now. And they've got to do something to change it. And they got to hope players change their approach. And I don't think they're going to do it. Their outfield still needs 2 players. Brandon Marsh and Rojas aren't starting outfielders. One's a 4th outfielder and one's a 5th outfielder. If Harper would have gone back to the outfield, and he obviously didn't want to do that, at least you would have only had one position and it would have been easier to get a first baseman. They should have kept Rhys Hoskins, but that's another story, maybe for another time. But they're not good enough. Their lineup's not good enough. And I'm going to tell you, and it's not Rob Thompson's fault. He's locked into all these analytic numbers that they give him, and it's a joke. The analytic numbers are really a joke. They're really a joke. So I'm going to try to read off some more of the comments here. Dombrowski to me has been a disappointment.
We can take callers whenever you're ready.
Oh, is that right? We can take a caller?
I can get callers today. The video callers on the show.
Wow.
If you're ready, we can do.
All right.
10 minutes.
If you want to call, so what do they have to do?
They just have to click the StreamYard link, just like the
Okay.
Posting it in the chat.
If you want,
Okay.
approve, we can
Yeah. All right. Let's do it. Let's try to do it,
Stand
and
by,
let's
and
have
if
it a little
I
test
see
run.
somebody,
Um,
I'll add them in,
Okay.
and I can add and delete people.
Okay.
or-
Okay. We can take video callers.
Just click the link
Wow.
you sent out in the comments.
Just click the link that is sent out in the comments. You sent them out in the comments.
Yep, on
Click the
YouTube.
link, and if we get somebody that wants to go in there and know you're going to be on a video link, you can put a mask on if you want, because some callers don't want to reveal themselves. All right. I also want to talk about the Sixers, so I'll wait for to set up the callers and see how that goes. But the Phillies right now, and somebody said Dombrowski's a disappointment. Let me address that. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's a good guy. But it is a disappointment. And they can't be the Dodgers, and they can't just go out. And as much money as John Middleton has, he has other people that are part of that organization ownership that I don't think just want to go out. That I just want to think go out. Somebody says, I guess it's the Phillies, the window is closing. Yes, it is. It is closing. Remember, I'm disappointed. Turner is a great guy, but he's a disappointment. He should not be playing shortstop. That's another thing. Defensively, he should not be playing shortstop, but he doesn't want to go to the outfield. And not most of the everyday players in the past have usually reported. They haven't reported yet. As of yesterday, Turner, Harper, and most of the regular players who usually report for pitchers and catchers, they have to be in this next week. But I would think that some of them should have been in already. What are they doing at home? It's just because spring training, they only stay there. A lot of them, especially with the game starting next week, a lot of them aren't going to play anyway. And if they play, they'll play a few innings and then can go back to their beach rental or their beach home. Time to move on from Stubbs? Yes, Marchand should be the backup caller. Marchand should be the backup catcher, not caller. Backup catcher in these situations. Stubbs is a it's okay, but it's not good enough. JT Realmuto, that's another. Let me just touch on that briefly before I get to the Sixers. JT Realmuto wants a new contract. He's not banging the doors down. He wants a new contract. You got to be careful. I think you have to wait till the end of the season. Teams are not going to sign him to a long-term contract. They're just not going to do it. As a catcher, If he catches 110 games, I would be shocked. And Rob Thompson said he will DH at some point. So, you know, that's what you got to do. But he's not going to be able to catch. He's not going to be able to catch 110 games. So you really got to be careful. It's just, you see the last couple of seasons that he has broken down. I see a comment here.
Charlie.
The approach at the plate will not change because no one is ever held accountable. You know what? Certain players are held accountable. Not everybody is held accountable. That's an interesting point. That's from Brian. We do have a caller on deck. All right, let's try it. Let's see how this works. And who?
Charlie.
This is Charlie. Hey, Charlie. Or who is it?
Charlie.
Charlie. All right. Let's roll and see what we got. What do you got for us, Charlie? Got to speak.
All right. Bannon.
Okay. Let's see if
We got another. Trevor Harris.
Okay, Charlie. Okay, Trevor. There you go, Trevor. Trevor Harris. What's up, Trevor?
Howard, how we do? It's great to have you back doing some type of media. I gotta say, it's great to have you back. I really do miss you.
I will say this. Podcasts, and sometimes you're put in situations where you got to start the next chapter.
Yeah.
But every time I've had a startup, I did the first show on WIP in '86. I was the first anchor that Channel 29 hired to do their 10 o'clock news. And you got to take, and I was an established station at Channel 3 when I went to Channel. Sometimes you got to take the chance and take the challenge. Podcasts are a way of the future. It's unfortunate, and I feel bad that radio is dying. And it's kind of a shame that it's dying. And television, kind of the same way. We get all our news from television before we even get to a newscast. Radio, it's the same thing every day. Good cop, bad cop, and that's why there's two people doing the shows.
As someone
But
who works
podcasts are
in
good.
sports radio in Miami, I definitely understand that. That's you guys were.
Are you in Miami? Are you in Miami?
Yeah, I work at WQAM in Miami, Florida.
Oh,
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Somebody
As
from
a
Miami.
Northeast guy, it works down here. I used to like to keep in tap of everybody.
Yeah, well, I
everyone's going.
grew up in the Northeast too. So do you have a question for me, Trevor?
Yeah, I do. With the Eagles with free agency coming up, who's the biggest person you got to resign? Is it going to be Josh Sweat? Is that the big guy, or Zach Bond?
No, Zach Bond is probably the guy. Josh Sweat, and somebody pointed out, and it's a good point, that they get a third-round pick as compensation. They should get a third-round pick. Josh Sweat's had a hell of a year. Here's the problem with re-signing. Zach Bond will play his ass off next year, too.
Agree.
Okay, even if he gets a contract. Becton, because it was so emotional for him, I think he'd play really hard if you re-sign him. Josh Sweat's had a hell of a year, but it's a contract year.
Yeah.
And sometimes you worry, once they get the contract and they get the signing bonus, are they going to do that? He was important for that team this year, extremely important. And I think he had 2.5 sacks in the Super Bowl. So the reality is he's good, but they probably feel that Milt Williams, and we'll see how that goes. But I think the most important player is Zach Bond to re-sign.
Would you also say
Becton's-
that?
Go
Would
ahead.
you also say Becton could also be like the tackle of the future if Lane ever retires? Would you say too? If you resign him as
Who's
well,
that?
Mekhi Becton as well.
And move him to tackle it. He was drafted as a tackle.
Yeah.
Lane Johnson's playing next year. I think Lane Johnson will play 2 more years. But you still, I forget, I think he missed some games this year. He was out, was it this year or last year?
Last
But you
year he
gotta-
was out.
Yeah, you got to worry about his health. Outside of that, they have young players on the offensive line. So, but Lane Johnson's so good, you hope he plays at the same level. But I think Becton, offensive and defensive line is where you win football games. And I really do think that you got to sign Becton. There's no question. And they have backup players, but he's played so well. And he's probably better as a guard than a tackle, so he's played well.
Definitely,
But,
for sure.
But Trevor, I can't believe you're QAM. Does QAM carry any of the games? Do they carry any of the teams?
We have the Florida Panthers, Miami Hurricanes football, all about the U, as I like to say. We have those on the Miami Heat, which is just an awful, awful basketball product right now. I called it from
Well,
the start.
hold. Oh, yeah, let me just stop you right there. Philadelphia has the 76ers, and they
Yes.
suck.
I'm not even a Sixers
They
fan. I
have,
know they suck.
they have a fraud who's making those decisions, and that would be Daryl Morey.
Agree.
Where Spoelstra is a great coach, Nick Nurse is just okay. Spoelstra is a great coach, and Pat Riley knows what he's doing with personnel. Sometimes, you know, things happen, and you're just not good enough. They're a better product than the Sixers. So
Agreed.
if you had the Sixers down there, first of all, I don't think Miami. Well, first of all, if the Sixers had Spoelstra and Pat Riley here, they wouldn't be in the situation where they re-signed Joel Embiid 4 more years after this at average of $62 million a year. Paul George was an awful signing.
Oh, I said that from the start.
Yeah, it's just 4 years. You want to sign him to 2 years, you live with it. You hope you get a year. Paul George scored 2 points the last game.
That's
points. It's a joke. Hey, Trevor, I appreciate it, and thanks for being a part of our podcast today.
Howard, thank you as always.
All right, take care.
We got Eddie.
We got another one?
We got 2 or 3 in line.
Okay. All right, let's go to Eddie. Eddie, you're with us, Eddie. How are
I'm
you,
with
brother?
you, Howard. What's
Yeah.
up, brother?
You tell me.
Listen, I just wanted to call in. First of all, I got to say, for a long time now, you were probably the only one, I'll give you credit, in media. I was always battling with my own friends and stuff, but you were the only one in media who really identified the frauds that the Sixers were for the last decade, right? And now, I'm just curious your opinion, because now I hear these guys, these Elliott Shore Park, and these guys are like, yeah, you got to blow it up. Well, wait a minute. You guys have been touting this fraudulent process for a decade. It's been obvious for 5 years that you have to get rid of Joel Embiid if you're ever going to win.
It's too
The
late
guy's
now.
never going to be reliable. He's never going to be there when you need him. He doesn't know how to win. It's the anti-Eagles, right? They don't have winners from the top down. And now I got to watch these guys, and you know who they are, who act like it's just obvious that you have to get rid of everybody, and nobody takes accountability and says,
Well,
I'm wrong. I was wrong. It was stupid. Move on.
Well, there's people, and you know, I don't want to criticize my son, but he just got, he
He's
drank
one of
so
them.
much Kool-Aid. I'm surprised he didn't drown drinking his own Kool-Aid. It was they're a disgrace. Scam Hinkie was a disgrace. You know, he blames Brian Colangelo for not letting the process go through. Process was already destroyed. The process, whatever you want to call that, it was a mistake because the picks they got with the process, like they got Joel Embiid. But he went to the 3rd pick in the draft, and they tried to trade him. They tried to trade that pick because they knew he had injury issues, that he's been injured his entire career. They were never going to win a championship with Joel Embiid. And then that fraud, Daryl Morey, signed to make him happy. Once Joel Embiid got his money, he's done.
They're done.
And they signed him to a 4-year extension, which starts next year.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
It's
then
crazy.
He signs Paul George, who scored 2 points. He scores 2 points the other night. You know, and then for these guys, whether it's Elliott or anybody else, to blow it up, you can't blow it up. You're stuck with 2 awful contracts. You know, Daryl Morey says, you know, I saw him quoted by one of the writers. I wanted to use the word, and I probably could use it on a podcast. I'll just use con job. Say, oh, we got to get a home run in a trade for Paul George. You got to get rid of him. A home run.
Yeah.
I'd take a strikeout if you could get rid of him. It's a joke.
It's just,
a
you know
joke.
what's amazing? These guys didn't understand from the beginning. You can't promote losing and then expect your players to learn to know how to win, right? Like for 5 years, losing was okay. Ben Simmons was getting paid. Joel was getting paid. Nobody had to prove anything. And then all of a sudden we were supposed to flip a switch and say, all right, guys, now you got to go beat the Celtics. Now you got to go beat the Knicks. They don't know how to win, and they're not held accountable. They keep getting contracts. And then I got to look on Twitter and see these guys say, yeah, it's not going to work out. Well, for 10 years, you told all the fans it was going to work out. You're the only one. And I don't just say that because you're the only one I've ever heard that called it out from the beginning. And it's just sickening now to watch everyone act like, oh, yeah, this was the obvious conclusion. I mean, I had an argument with I had a podcast and I had an argument with Marcus Hayes, this was 2 years ago. He came on
He's
and
irrelevant.
he said, would you trade Joel Embiid? I said, yeah, I would. He said, you're out of your mind. We're fighting back and forth. Now he acts like it's obvious. These guys all act like
most
it's
of those
obvious.
guys are clueless. They're a joke of an organization, I see. And then somebody writes, Jose, I still can't believe Morey passed on Tyrese Halliburton. Now, Morey denies it, but I know for a fact that that was on the table. They could have gotten Tyrese Halliburton from Sacramento. They would have taken Simmons, and you would have given up less than they gave up to get Harden because Daryl Morey just gets guys that he knew. I mean, half the organization was the Houston Rockets, so where he came from. And he denied it. They could have had Tyrese Halliburton.
And you know this, right? You got to pull the trigger. Like, look what the Mavericks just did. Now, Luka, you could argue, but whatever. They didn't like he wasn't in shape, whatever the reason is. You got to pull the trigger on guys like Embiid 4 years ago. It's too late now. Nobody wants Joel Embiid. You're not going to get anything for him.
Yeah,
and 4 years ago, if you identified it, you could have gotten something for him and started over. Now you're in hell.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eddie. Hey, Eddie.
Yeah.
You make some good points. I'm glad you're a part of the podcast on the Howard Eskin Show, and hope to have you back again.
Yeah. Good luck, Howard. I enjoy listening to you.
Appointment podcast on Saturday mornings at 8:00. Thanks, Elliot. We got
One more.
okay.
Matt from Mayfair.
Who is it?
Matt from Mayfair.
Matt from Mayfair. Beautiful downtown Mayfair. It is a vacation spot right on the water.
What's up, King? How you doing?
Even though it's dirty water, the Delaware. Hey, how are you, Matt?
Doing well. It's been a long time. How you been?
I'm great. I'm wonderful. And it's just the podcast world is evolving into bigger. It'll be bigger than radio in such a short time. So,
I agree.
And I'm glad to have you a part of it. Okay, what's up, Matt?
So, question for the Phillies. You bring up an interesting point about the Phillies maybe sinking down to the third best team in the NL East. At what point does the Phillies nation, the ticket holding public of the Phillies, the support structure of the Phillies, basically demand Dave Dombrowski to figure out and ask the question to him, why did we stand pat this offseason while this team was steadily regressing over the last 3 years?
Well, the ticket buyers always believe that there's a championship at the end of it. I'm not saying they're right.
Yes.
But look at the Sixers. These people are getting ripped off.
Oh, absolutely.
With what they pay for those tickets. And they keep on. Daryl Morey had the gonads. I want to say balls, but I won't say it. The gonads to tell people that they still believe that they can pursue a championship this year with this team. Does he think people are that stupid? So when we say the Phillies organization is so much better than the Sixers. I love John Middleton. He's really a good owner. Dave Dombrowski's a smart guy, but I don't know if he's restricted and able to do certain things. I mean, they picked up a starting pitcher. Their starters
who's coming off of an injury problem last year.
Well,
Jesus
yeah,
Luzardo.
okay. Yeah, and you got to worry about that. That's why they're big at one-year contracts. But the ticket buying public doesn't catch up for a while. And baseball tickets, usually it's the season ticket holders that kind of stand pat because they believe that there might be a championship at the end. They believe they're going to do something. And people gravitate to blaming the manager. It's not the manager's fault.
No.
He's handed all these computer printouts of analytics, and he buys into that. It's just total nonsense. You got to, if you're a baseball person, and he is a baseball person, you got to trust your instincts more, and he doesn't do that. But the ticket buying public's not going away, not for at least a couple of years, although they better get off to a good start, because even though the season ticket holders will be there, the ticket buying public. Now you remember baseball. You remember this: opening day is always big,
Right.
and then and now it starts in March. But let's say April and May, not it's not robust as far as fans buying tickets because it's April and May. So then we got to see if they don't get off to good. June is when kids get out of school, and we'll see what happens by that time. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they're. You can never believe the numbers of attendance because they always kind of build them up. Sixers, to tell me that Sixers have 19,700 there every game is a lie. They do not have 19. I believe is a lie. I mean, that's just that's what they kind of put out there. So the Phillies will see what happens, but they're going to hang in there for a couple of years, Matt. I'm
Now,
telling you,
if the Phillies do get off to a slow start this year, if they do get off to a bad start, is Rob Thompson's job in jeopardy? A la Joe Girardi a few years back.
yeah, but okay. So who do you bring in? You bring in
Don
somebody from
Mattingly, Don friggin'
some-
Mattingly.
well, Don Matt.
He's a bench coach with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I know he. I know. Actually, I'm friendly with Don Mattingly.
He should
Really
be here.
terrific guy and a smart guy. That being it, because his son works for the organization. That's actually an interesting name, but I don't know that they'd go outside the organization. Although his son could keep him up to date with the organization, it would be interesting. But I think they're going to have patience with Rob Thompson because in reality, the manager of a baseball team has little to do with winning and losing of any sport. Football coaches are more important. Hockey coaches, Tortorella obviously is more important. Basketball coaches are more important. It's the way you use players, and I don't know that Nick Nurse is engaging enough to get those. Well, they're not good enough. So I think they'll have a lot of patience.
And my last question.
Sure.
What about the Saturday morning question? When we're getting back to that?
A question for a
like what the best trade was, and you gave something away.
We always gave away something.
Yes.
And I'm working on sponsorships, and people can go to my website howardeskin.com for if they want to be a part of this podcast and sponsorships, and I will find a company to give away gift certificates.
Come on, man! Yeah, you got to keep us
Well,
going.
I
You
know,
got to keep us thinking.
Well, I always had the Bruno brothers,
Yes.
and then I got Pete from Chickies and Pete's gave me certificates, and WIP got pissed, because they didn't do it. It's just, we're just making people happy. That's all we're trying to do. But I'll get back. There'll be a point that I get back to it, Matt. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining the podcast.
Welcome back, Howard.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I am back. All right, so the Howard Eskin Show, we'll wrap it up. I want to just have one thing that I have to say. Well, I don't have to say, but I want to say about the Sixers. I want to include Joel Embiid's played 17 games. You're paying him, what, $60 million, average of $60 million a year. That's great, 17 games. I don't know that he'll get to 30. Who knows whether he'll get to 30? He blamed God for not being able to play every game. And we'll see after the All-Star break. The All-Star game, how about the NBA's begging players to play hard in the All-Star game? They won't. The All-Star game sucks. The All-Star game weekend is nonsense. It's so bad. Most All-Star games are not good. But the NBA is a complete joke. But Paul George has played 35 games, getting $55.5 million a year. The Sixers have 26 left. Paul George will be again in the realm he was always in before last year when he was playing for a contract of playing 50-some games a year. That's what he's going to play. And Daryl Morey signs him to a four-year max contract at $55.5 million. Got to get that in. Well, thanks for joining the Howard Eskin Show. We will be back on Wednesday. I will announce the guest during the week. Thanks to Creative Outfit. These guys are really good. If you have any production needs, these guys are really good. So just get in touch with them. They're online. What's it? CreativeOutfield.com or CreativeOutfit.com. And thanks to our sponsor, ABC Tickets. Tickets anywhere in the world. You can get them from ABC anywhere in the world. Thanks to Brandon Graham, but we'll have him on probably next week. But he was running around. He left the parade, went to Dallas with his family. There's gymnastics competitions for his kids, so we'll have him on next, and I'll announce the guest probably Monday or Tuesday for Wednesday night. Thanks again, and really thanks for being a part of this podcast. And we're going to try to have more people on, but the way you have them on is you actually, and it looks like those guys already had something set up in what they do, but we'll have more and we'll address more of the comments. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your participation. And I appreciate most of all you being a part of the Howard Eskin Show. Have a great weekend, wherever you may be. We had I'll say a caller. It wasn't a caller. It was a podcaster from Miami. Have a great weekend and enjoy it. And thanks again. Howard Eskin Show will be back on Wednesday night, 7:30. All right, take care. Have a good one.